Today we'll be covering all of the unmarked locations between the town of Salem and Hunt. You'll find everything from mythical beasts to lost tank patrols and some power armor along the way. There's even a divorce. Yeah, you heard it right. Let's cover this vast area and all of its secrets. First on our list is a gunner radar installation. This provides communications between all of the gunners in the north section of the map. It's heavily defended, and in terms of loot, there isn't an awful lot. But given the guardians that defend this, including plenty high-level robots, I would say the gunners highly prize this location. And considering access is only via this bus to span a massive gap of the freeway, it's a very inventive way to establish a base of operations. For me, there's a gunner brigadier, an assaultron dominator, and a gunner sentry bot, a rare find in the Commonwealth. That are defending this particular position. It's located just northwest of the Coastal Cottage near the Parsons State Insane Asylum, and it is quite the base, to say the least, to keep their communications going. It's the only way they kind of get around the Commonwealth. On board there's a small ham radio, several toolboxes to keep things repaired, and other than that, that's pretty much this completed. But there's a wee point of interest right at the bottom of the freeway here. Curiously, it's two tractors with rotavator attachments. Now, considering tractors are rather rare, seeing a trailer with two of them overturned is something that you don't often see throughout the wasteland. So, a neat addition to the series. Not too far away from the gunner radar, you can find this billboard. It seems to be for the Milton General Hospital that we see mentioned in the bunker in West Everett Estates. Of course, it is a very pleasant place to visit, to say the least. The billboard, unfortunately, hides a few secrets, and I'm sure you can just see what's about to happen here. On approach, you may encounter some foes who have decided that they wanted to hide for a bit, but the cryolator meant they could get them out. Once your guest is firmly dealt with, you can get the supplies on the billboard. I find the easiest way is to just hop round this fence here, and then once you get close enough, just pick up the box and gently set it down. Inside you can find some items, stim packs, vacuum tubes and some caps, as well as the gas canister. How that fellow ended up there is anyone's guess. Probably, considering he had stim packs and caps, he was actually post-war, not pre-war. And, well, I would say the Marlurk Hunter might have chased him up there, and he didn't know how to get down. And, of course, we came along and got the supplies, which is pretty awesome in my books, located here just north of Coastal Cottage. Let's go, hit the next one. Every so often in this series, there's a location I can show you that I can guarantee the majority of the player base has never seen before. And the coastal hideout located here right beside Coastal Cottage under the bridge to the Macra fish packing plant is just that place. Inside we can find the sad story of some ghouls, well, people at one stage, who decided to hold up here in hopes that, well, things would just get better on the outside. They drank, they partied, they played games, mostly drank though. And unfortunately, things just didn't really develop very well. This bloated glowing one, normally it's just a normal glowing one at lower levels, is all that remains. If you unlock this door, you can, of course, get yourself a wee Vault Tech suitcase. Well, lunchbox, not suitcase. Vault Tech suitcase would be cool though. We can pick up a fusion core as well, and yeah, apart from all the fighting of the ghouls that you'll have to do, they probably shouldn't have slept in summer with so much radioactive barrels that, you know, eventually caused them to ghoulify. Yeah, pretty awesome place. Let's go to the next one. This was once a beautiful beach area frequented by vacationers that would have come here on their holidays to catch some rays. It's now a bit of a ship graveyard and the remainders of just a bit of a dumping ground. There are, however, some residents that, let's just say, wouldn't be too friendly if you were to wake them up. And if we go onto this boat, we may even find some neat items. Of course, in the distance, we can see the Macra fish packing plant as well. On board, we can find that there is a wooden crate underneath with some items, as well as a ghoul that is glitched out. But this is Fallout 4, so, you know, that's what you kind of come to expect. It's half the beauty of the game. It's not a bug, it's part of the product. Moving on up here, we can see our next guest in the series. This is the lonely, glowing one. You can see him just sitting there. He doesn't have much to do and he's just drifting away. Over time, he may eventually drift onto the coast, but considering what he's standing on is a static item at the moment, it may take a bit of a storm or something else to move him to his destination. Of course, many players may recognise this location as heading on to get to Far Harbour, as you can reach it just by going around the wee bend there, and then you can of course get over there. We will be doing a video on that in the future. Alright, let's see what unique location we can find next. If you remember anything from Fallout 4, you know nothing comes for free. So when you see a forklift sitting with a few handy items around it, you know, there's a bit of a cooler, you can get some food, and on top of this, you can get even more stuff, including some bags of cement. So you're thinking settlement building time, and your party gets ruined by not one, but many raiders. Now, often these guys are actually engaged in fighting with the Mirelurks up at Coastal Cottage, because we're not that far away from it. So normally they can be of great service to you by dispatching of your raider friends. At higher levels they will have much better equipment, so be very careful when you decide to frequent this area. But given the fact that there's over 5 bags of cement up for the taking, it's definitely a worthwhile spot venturing past. This next one is not to be slept on though. For you see, this location has one of the deadliest enemies in Fallout, as it is completely level dependent as to what you find here. On approach, you can find several dead Yaoguai. Again, very level dependent, but they'll normally be pretty decent Yaoguai, like a dusky one over here. Now, you might be wondering what on earth slaughtered every single one of them and the Deathclaw. Oh no, for you see, it is the Deathclaw. He is just sleeping at the moment. He may be on patrol, but this is often a guaranteed spot to find one. In my case, it's just a mythic, legendary Deathclaw. Nothing too extreme. On occasion, I find savage ones and chameleons here. So, you know, do mark this on your map as somewhere, if you want to do a bit of trophy hunting, northwest of Coastal Cottage, of course. You could lure them towards the Mirelurks and the raiders that ambush you from earlier. I can safely say, though, he is more than a match for every single one of them. And I would say the only thing that could take him down is maybe the Assaultron and the Sentry bot that we seen earlier up in the Gunner encampment. But encouraging them to come down to fight him is unlikely. But it's still an awesome place to take a note of. Stepping back from deadly Deathclaws for a minute, we can take a bit of a break, which is not something that you get often in this game. Leonard Moore here owns a little shop just by the side of the coast here. He is a pretty decent trader and has an array of items and shipments that you can purchase, as well as plenty of items to steal if you're not feeling like being a negotiator. The only issue for Leonard is he tends to grapple with this Mirelurk Queen that sits just east of him, and often he loses the battle pretty handily. But the Queen is something to always bear in mind. But before we get up to the Queen and have a wee talk with her, we can go on board this bus and you can find several skeletons as well as a suitcase. Presumably many of them were either on their way to the beach or on their way to work, both of which they never made it to, which is quite unfortunate given the fantastic weather that we're currently experiencing. On to the parking lot. This, again, would give access to several locations in the area, including a little diner on the hill. Now, if you want to visit the diner and not turn out like the rest of these people here, you'll have to best a Mirelurk Queen, who tends to frequent this area. Now, of course, she is not a customer of the diner, but she certainly acts like one. So let's go in the diner and see what we can find. Serving some of the freshest seafood in the region. You can pick up some Nuka-Cola outside before going in, and unfortunately the cash register is currently very empty, as is the fridge, but you can find that it sold an awful lot of beer bottles here. So instead of being a diner, this may have been more so a bar. But if we go down the back, we can actually jump down to the little dock area where there's plenty of things to keep you busy. Although the explosive box may come in handy, especially for, again, our guest who is still circling the area. Once you pick up all of your explosives, you'll be able to tackle her with, hopefully, a bit more less effort, let's put it that way. So yes, we are currently just northwest of the town of Salem and still close to the Coastal Cottage. We're kind of hugging the coastline all the way down to Fort Strong, so we've plenty of ground to cover. Let's carry on to the next one. Keeping in the theme of the Marlark Queen, we can go on to this little dock beside the Macra fish packing plant, not too far away from the bar diner we were at. I call this the Flamingo Party Boat because there is just an awful lot of flamingos on it for some reason, as well as some medical supplies and even more flamingos inside. Awesome. We can also pick up a globe, and it seems that it was a rather fancy boat. Someone had a fairly good operation here, even had a wee water dispenser. Obviously, they don't reside here anymore, and apart from the Queen, I often wonder where she wanders to. I've been really curious with her patrol route. Ah, she goes over that way. That makes sense. You can see that the whole area connects. We've got Coastal Hideout, Coastal Cottage, and his little... behind the Marlark Queen is Leonard's place. So it's all coming together. And yeah, let's head on to the Maharis fish packing plant, because behind it is a few underwater places that we're going to have a look at. This next one is more of an underwater anomaly. It's just east of Macra fish packing plant. You can spot it using the buoy, and it's underneath this large arched skeleton who's lying in the bathtub with a teddy bear and a pack of duct tape. So if you want to do a bit of an extreme deep dive, you can literally find a packet of duct tape. Not the worst thing in the world. That's a given. And if you want an even more curious find, we can hop up here and find a bit of mac and cheese with the skeleton in an open fridge. Don't know why the water's bubbling. Maybe the fridge is only recently here and the cooling system's like kind of reacting with the water. I don't know. It's such a strange one. It's so out of the way. Some developer had an awful lot of fun putting this just east of Macra fish packing. Just slightly north of Dunwich Borders, you can find this little pond side, heavily irradiated and with some very, very nasty blood bugs. But if you go over to the corner here, we can find this person clutching to some chems, possibly an old raider who met their fate very close to the site, possibly due to the blood bugs. And if we drain away the water, there's not really anything else floating about here, but do be careful of the local residents. Next up, we've got an even deadlier foe who's currently stalking some raiders, let's just say. With the slog in full view, we can board this bus. Oh, a dead raider. Oh, another dead raider. Whoa, plenty of food. This is awfully strange, and even another dead one. Wonder what killed 3 very heavily armed raiders. Well, there's not many animals in the Commonwealth. Maybe it was gunners. Let's look out the window. Ah, that's what killed them. Ooh, it's mythic too. Well, it's a level dependent death claw, but yes, apart from being slightly glitched out, we'll hit him. There we go. His shoulder was a bit tight there. Just hit him with a cryolator. He's a wee bit happier about that. So yes, if you want to know where we are, just northwest of Dunwich Borders. We were previously over at that mutated pond, just across the ridge there. So, yeah, we're going to go get a legendary revolver now. Stay tuned. When you're establishing your first settlement at Finch Farm, be sure to cross over the river and visit the pump house. Inside, you can get a special legendary weapon that sets your enemies on fire. It does drop off towards the end of the game, but it's still worth picking up. Gaining access to it is probably the slightly more difficult part. So we can see the code is 0451, and inputting it into the computer here, we can put in 4, 5, and 1, and technically there is no 0, so it's actually the number 10. Doing that will unlock the door, gaining us access to this fellow, who is now I understand burnt to a crisp, because the gainer of course sets targets on fire. So if he did, shoot himself with it, it would have set him on fire, which explains why he's kind of charred. There's an industrial trunk with some items, as well as the fusion core that I often, for some reason, just forget to pick up on the way out. This place, again, just east of Finch Farm, very close to Lynn Pier Parking. Fast travel in and make sure to pick it up, because, again, all these items here are just extremely useful. And there's some bones and a coffee pot. What more do you need other than bones and a coffee pot? What's this one called? Forgotten meters measure no radiation. Yeah, wee bit of a radiation warning there. Does the cryolator set off the... no, only fire sets off gas and oil. Noted. Oh, by the way, don't fire anything in here, because there is like a bit of a gas leak and a bit of an oil leak. So, again, be careful. If you need hub flower, then Hub Flower Hills is somewhere you'll definitely want to visit. It also has a very large amount of wild potato blossoms, as well as it seems like some mongrels tend to be in the area. Don't worry, I didn't pull out the bat for any particular reason. I'm actually quite friendly towards most animals in the area. Now, where is this located? It is directly north of Coastal Cottage, and it encompasses this area all the way down to the Salem Butcher, where you can find just an enormous amount of hub flower. Like, around every bend here, there's just hub flower. There's there. We just passed more. You can just pick them all clean. I know they're used in several recipes for very useful HP items, so if you want to know somewhere just to grab an awful lot of them, this is definitely somewhere worth strolling past. Plus, you can visit the radar, or the gunner radar, and then go on to the Salem Butcher. That's normally, he's just chilling down here. So it sort of encompasses two areas. This is a Savage Deathclaw instead of a Mythic one. I love how it changes every so often. Alright, let's go to the next place. This is one of the strangest encounters you'll find in the entire series. For you see, it's a Brahmin who is currently chilling on the second floor, or first floor, depending on which side of the pond you're on, of this little house. They have a water trough that is collecting some rainwater dripping from above. How the Brahmin, called Bessie, that's her nickname, got up here, I'm not 100% sure. My theory is someone maybe wanted to keep her pretty much alive, and judging by the fact there's a toothbrush and a dish rag, it seemed that she was well looked after. Now, where their owner is anyone's guess. Perhaps, in fact, it maybe belongs to one of the residents of the Hub City Auto Wreckers. You never know, someone may have just been keeping a Brahmin here, maybe for milk, maybe for meat, maybe because they just loved the animal so much. Either or, it's a curious one, and one that may have no straightforward answer, but I would love any theory in the comments below. Oh, we are just east of Hub City Auto Wreckers, just for the record there. A very common encounter, especially here, is some gunners and their tank. Now, it is, in theory, this tank is working. The reason it's here is because the gunners are kind of driving around in it. Although we obviously don't see any vehicles ever move apart from vertibirds, so this tank is pretty much just chilling here. Now, once you take out the gunners, you can't access the tank, and there is no evidence that there is anyone even in it. It would have been cool if you could have done one of those wee animations where you pop the grenade and you throw it into the tank. Unfortunately, that doesn't really work in this game. But still, it is something I wish we would have seen, especially from Fallout 3's expansion. Operation Anchorage, you do see some tank action, although it's nothing like this. It's still awesome to see something like that, and it would have been cool to see it implemented, but I understand why it wasn't. Maybe in Fallout 5, you never know, we might actually get some drivable vehicles. I know it's a mod, but still, it's pretty cool. We are currently located very close to Lynn Pier parking, but guess what? There's more coming up. When venturing in the direction of the town of Nahant, you will encounter an increasingly large amount of robots. In this case, I have crossed not one but two siege breaker bots, and that's before we even make it to the barge. For you see, the military were dropping off some hardware when the war broke out. This particular shipment contained an awful lot of security and mostly robots, and in this case we're going to approach it and get ourselves some power armor. Now, the robots in this case, it tends to be an Assaultron, and in this case it's a Dominator, so this escort was not messing around. There's also a Lieutenant Gutsy on board, but the siege breakers apparently have decided to venture a little further away, and, they are more of a problem on approach as opposed to, you could go round them. So it's not the worst thing in the world, and there's some power armor behind this security gate. It's an advanced lock, but it should be handy enough for most people to open it. What? 4 fusion cores? I've always been told in the comments of finds like this, but I never get it in my games, and of course I would only get it in my exploring account. 4 fusion cores, that is awesome. It reminds me of the Milton General parking lot, where you can choose the 2 prizes, and one of them is 4 fusion cores, so Don't worry, the Milton General will be featuring in a future Unmarked Location series. But yes, this barge arrived. The APCs were literally unloading just as the bombs fell. If you don't know where we are, it's just north of the Sheriff's Department and close to Libertalia. Now, our next spot is not too far away. In fact, it is not more than just a short jog. It's on top of this red rocket. Now, I must say, the vast majority of people, when I did the episode, commented that it was a Resident Evil sort of nod to the movie with the wee sniper position, which I thought was pretty awesome. It's one of my favourite movie franchises. So, yeah, it's pretty neat. You get on top here and you can usually find a sniper rifle. It tends to be a hardened one. If you do come at extremely low levels, it may not be here, so do bear that in mind. The flamingos here are extremely clean as well. Wee basketball is overlooking the barge. I would say whoever was here was perhaps looking at the military escort thinking, I could take a stab to get some good supplies over there. Heck, maybe they did. But given the fact that their camp is left in pristine condition, it doesn't seem that they were killed. So it makes little sense as to what was going on. But they were using basketballs as opposed to bowling balls to take out the pins. So, maybe they were a little crazy. You never know. Alright, so let's head on to our next destination. Not but a short walk away from the sniper's nest, you can find a little boat shed. Inside is a skeleton and his hoe, as well as some buckets, as presumably he was using it to paint his nearby boat, who had seen better days. The jetty has been completely destroyed, and the remnants of the paint can, as well as a plastic plate. Maybe he was just having his breakfast. He had went back to grab supplies in the shed when the bombs fell, ripping his boat and art project completely away. Maybe he was trying to do a cool wee design or just give it a lick of underpaint. That could have been something just to keep the corrosion away. You gotta look after your boat, especially when in this area, especially a coastal state, it would have been a large form of income in terms of fishing and probably just recreation as well. I haven't went into the boat. That would have been something to have we nosy. Oh, there's nothing in it bar a barrel. Ooh, he could have been smuggling stuff. You never know. Stranger things have definitely happened as well, as far as the Fallout series goes. Alright, so next up, are you hungry? We're going to visit the Nahant restaurant. Not but a hop, skip and a jump away. We can get closer to the likes of Crook Manor and the, of course, the Nahant Chapel. Opposite is a bar and restaurant. Also serves cocktails. Fortunately for us, there is no cocktails left. Have you ever wondered? It's strange you don't see an atomic cocktail. Like you've seen in New Vegas. I guess it didn't really catch on as well as it did over on the West Coast. Inside is normally crawling with ghouls and raiders, although that tends to be a more random encounter. Still, you can pick up some items in the steamer trunk upstairs. In fact, this is the first time I've ever visited here and you haven't seen ghouls and raiders fighting it out. I thought it was like a 100% chance of that occurring. You would imagine that the restaurant would have been opening for business later on. Maybe it didn't really do breakfast, so not many people were out here on the time that the bombs fell, and they would have seen the explosion going off, of course, from the direction of the glowing sea. Libertalia is in full view, and if we visit the pier, there may be some items on these boats that we can salvage. The clock, of course, being stopped at the exact moment that the bombs fell. I guess the EMP blast just stopped all of the clocks from turning. An upper skull. The exact thing I was looking for on this particular run. If you need it, I suppose it's there. Do you ever notice the control system in all the boats are slightly different? Makes you wonder. And so sometimes I see no control system, so I wonder, did they just steer from the rear? And that was it? I suppose that's maybe one way of doing it. A wee toolbox over here and an empty Coca-Cola. These fishermen were probably either just coming back or about to go out. They maybe would have called over to the restaurant, maybe got a wee beer or something after their shift. Of course, none of that really matters now because, they're not really required. I mean, it's amazing that you don't see anyone fishing, apart from that guy at Covenant, but he's not really fishing. He's more like protecting the compound. I wonder, is there any other fishermen that you come across in the game? You find fishing rods, so I'm sure it's something you could do. It's strange that it wasn't an activity that you could just throw it in, and sit and fish for a bit. That would have been fun. Maybe there's a fishing mod. I should have a look at that. Anyway, on to our next destination. I like to imagine this next location as someone who just recently got off the boat, had a bit of a drink in the local Nahant bar, and whilst the bombs were falling, they thought, here, I'm going to take a case of beer with me, I'm going to jump into the preservation shelter, and I'm going to wait it out. He drank enough beer. Perhaps he was too drunk to figure out how to open it up or something. Maybe a jam, but it's open now, which makes it even more curious. What I would have loved, though, because it is so close to Crypt Manor, I would have loved if you had opened this and it would have been a ghoul inside. I don't think there's any one that you open and there's ghouls inside. There's a dead one near DB Technical High School, but I'm not sure of any other ones. And I'm just venturing up towards Crypt Manor because this is kind of... It's an awesome wee location. Of course, it's marked though. We can't say much about it. But if we walk over, we can find a few things going on in the nearby houses. It would have been a very quiet estate. Not too much going on. It seems someone tried to have a bit of a barbecue out on the pier here. And let's just say that didn't go to plan. If we drain away the water, you can find a bit of a fishing ship over there. 2 fishing ships. Perhaps they collided. And then we've got a massive sunken cargo ship that we're going to be looking at in a wee second. And then a massive pipeline as well. Though what it was pumping, it could be anyone's guess. We've got a few more things going on in the crypt houses. Some people were sitting again having beer. It seems that alcoholics was a normal thing during this time period. I mean, given the situation, I would say so. This is also one of the most impressive doors in Fallout because this door is still standing, despite it being the most useless door in the entire series because it's just not needed. And then, of course, yeah, I forgot about that. Technically, it's not a Marlark nest, but it's always worthwhile pointing out that there is a Marlark Queen right beside the Nahant Chapel. And she's even got her nest here. I never check it for items, though. Oh, a single skull. Can I pick it up? Nope. Bit strange. Anything in the nest? No. It's always strange where they hide. Just they come up at the most unfortunate times, and the amount of games I've been stuck in a position where a Marlark Queen has me pinned down is too much. But this one in particular, if there's not much going on in the chapel, I always go over to the restaurant, and you normally get a random encounter of raiders and ghouls, and I drag them over to fight the queen for me. She normally destroys all of them, but it's worth throwing something at the problem. Anyways, we are going to actually head a wee bit north instead to Kingsport Lighthouse, and we have a few more places in the water that we want to cover just before we head deeper towards the likes of the Boston Airport. So yeah, we're covering, as I said, the whole of the East Coast down to Fort Strong. So that's our catchment area. Let's go to Kingsport Lighthouse. The Children of Adam aren't my concern for this particular part of the series, but what we can find is a shark fin, or a dull shark, whatever way you want to pronounce it. And if you hit it a few times, not much happens. But if you throw a grenade near it, you can turn it into one of the opened ones. Yeah, I think there's only 2 unopened shark fins in the series. There's this one, and the other one is, if anyone is genuinely curious at this point, it's down by the Harbour Master Hotel. It's out the front, somewhere around where I am pointing. Yeah, you can find it there. So that's a neat wee addition. Anyways, heading on, there appears to be a rather large barge that has, if I'm correct, and my memory should be, there's a teddy bear somewhere on this barge. There's Teddy, sitting here beside a picture frame and a suitcase with a military cap in it. I suppose the story there is that someone was surviving. Maybe their boat, they hit land, they thought they were lucky, and either they became food for the Children of Adam, a member of the Children of Adam, or here, maybe this is Long Neck Luke's, or your man that at least occupies it. Maybe this is where he made landfall. Now, if we drain away the water, we can have a wee bit of a deeper look. Huh? Get it? Deeper look? Childish, some of the jokes at times. Yeah. So we're actually venturing over this direction because I call this Clash of Ships. Not Clash of Clans, Clash of Ships. Where two tugboats have apparently crashed into one another and created quite the ruckus. So we're going to swim over and see if we can see anything on board. Unfortunately, other than debris, there's nothing on either of the tugboats. But it's a very curious thing, because I would imagine maybe with their navigation systems down and the EMP hitting, it probably would explain how they both managed to just run straight into one another. I will admit there is a metal box that I've just noticed over to the corner here. Nothing on it. That's a shame. Oh, there is something up here. There's a skeleton and a microphone. Does the microphone move? No, it's not one of the movable ones. That is a pity. Yeah, these two hulking boats slammed into one another. Ooh, if I press that button, we're just going to fall into the water. Yeah. So we've got one over by Long Neck Looks, and these two. This one seems to be carrying an awful lot of cargo. It's just a pity that it's never explained exactly what was on board some of these. Because I do assume the majority of them are tugboats, but it seems that a lot of them were in service for other reasons. So, we've obviously got like the military one, the USS Riptide, that's down in the middle. But there's 4 in use here. One was pulling in the military barge that we looked at previously, so that explains why that one's over there. Now, this large vessel that I spoke about previously is a massive cargo ship. We're going to have a wee look at it. Scale is the important part of this episode. So, look at the Marler Queen. It's over there. In fact, you know what? I can help us all out with a bit of a sniper rifle. So, the Marler Queen and the Nahant Chapel. Okay? Standard house, crypt manor, even a tugboat in the distance. They're rather large objects, correct? Okay, let's drain away the water. Look at the size of this cargo ship. It is massive. Now, obviously, being a cargo ship, it resembles more like the FMS Northern Star down below. Obviously full of Norwegian ghouls and the agility bobblehead. It's amazing I remembered all that. I hope it is the agility bobblehead. I hope it's Norwegians. Yes. So this large vessel was obviously coming into harbour, and when the bombs fell, I'm sure it did a large amount of damage. It could have actually been anchored. Maybe in the blast this ship wasn't damaged, or maybe it hit the reef. You know, there's a few possibilities as to why this may have sank. But all in all, it's incredible that such a large object and such a large, like if this was marked on the map, it would probably take up this entire square. And there's no quest down to swim at it. There's no way you would see it unless you drain away the water. You could maybe find a bit of it, but in terms of scale, it takes up my entire screen. And that is just awesome. Now, next up, we've got this little platform that we're going to have a look at. You can't see the top of the ship. That's kind of cool that there's a few buoys around it. And you can see the mast, but you just don't know of the scale of the ship. So this little settlement is one of my favourite places. I actually wish there was a workshop here. How you would get people here, I'm not too sure. That's a whole different question. But if we drop back down, we can see it's got wooden crates, got a mattress, it's got, heck, we're growing some from fruit and veg out here, some mud fruit, yum yum. We've also got a few skeletons, so it seems that they were all female, although I don't know if the skeletons generated or it swaps between, but it seems that they managed to capture a shark fin. They were eating away at it. I call it shark fins, mixture of shark and dolphin, because they kind of look like both. They had meat, they had everything. The only thing I'm noticing is that from all the destruction, I would say that most of this barge probably got completely wiped out in a single storm. I mean, look where they are. They were probably, close to the buoy. I don't even think they're anchored to anything. No, I think they're just floating on the top. Did they have anything anchoring them down? Oh, yes, they did. What is this? Like some sort of pipeline system? Actually, I have no idea what it is. Yeah. See, there was meant to be an underwater vault, and there was meant to be like quest lines related to it. So it's pretty cool that there is a particular object keeping this completely anchored. So a storm would still batter it, though. Wouldn't, not moving is one thing, but, surviving a full-blown, like a hurricane or a storm rolling in here, like loads of these places would have just got wiped out. So the survivability of a lot of these people, it's impressive to say the least. But yes, you can see the cargo ship. I'm still completely in awe at just the sheer size of it. It's huge. Alright, so let's head on to our next destination. The storyline to this unmarked location is brilliant. So, a shipping vessel and a tugboat crashed into this little island. It seems that someone salvaged a load of debris and resources to build a bit of a base. Or just a general wee home. They then decided to go up onto the roof with one of their companions who was in a wheelchair. Now, stay with me in this storyline. Lightning struck and knocked this person back where they just hit their head and died, and threw the wheelchair person over the edge where she landed here on a bit of debris. With some buff out, she just kind of, accepted her fate. I know it seems like a far-fetched idea, but I remember when I was coming up with this lightning story, it was just humorous to think of, Why else would they be standing here? And plus, the storm story makes sense because it appears that wee settlement over there was wiped out by a storm at some point. There's also another vessel with a guy and a girl's skeleton who were nearby. So I would say that there was a lot going on here. Perhaps they were also part of the settlement, and when the storm hit, they decided to move on. Some people maybe held up in the island nearby. Perhaps these two were even the last survivors. And, of course, didn't really do them much good at the end. I love how they have a wee bit of a basketball thing. I don't know where on earth they would have got that. Like, how would that even be debris? They were also growing some wild corn, so can't say things weren't going, too badly for them over here. If you want to know where we are, just southeast of Kingsport Lighthouse. So, a few neat things found here. Now, let's go find the Potato Crisp gal. Dubbed the Potato Crisp gal for no reason other than she has some potato crisps near her. How this skeleton ended up way out here, I presume she was on this boat. The boat crashed. She kind of climbed along the rocks here and met her fate over here. So if you want the potato crisps, you can simply head all the way over here. Some Institute birds have showed up. Shoo! I have no ammo. I would say shoo again. Shoo. Wow. Oh, I can't hit it because I'm in fly mode. That's just one of the moments. They flew away. Get away, them damn birds. Potato crisps. Well, I mean, if they're probably one of the hardest potato crisps to find. You could put it in your settlement, a bit like a trophy, just east of Crater House and Salem. We are moving on to the Stingray crash site. Now, this one gets a bit more interesting. So, Stingrays were an experimental fighter aircraft. They were also capable of space flight, if you can believe all the rivets that are on this particular one. Yeah, you can actually see that in the Museum of Freedom. It gives a bit of an impression that they can go to space. So, whoever used it as a bit of a shelter, bit ingenious, I must say, while potatoes growing away, and they weren't too far away from shore. That's the funny thing. It's not like this is very far out. They could have swam it, but maybe given the fact that Salem didn't look too enticing, the whole town has fallen, and there's only the likes of Marlurks in it at the moment and Raiders, so you don't really want to go in that direction. So I can understand why this guy just felt, I'm gonna brave it out over here. I wonder, is he the pilot of the Stingray? Because there's no military even nearby to save them. The other Stingrays tend to have military vehicles near them, as they were going to try and recover them. This guy, he crashed too far away from any help, so he met his fate here, unfortunately. All right, so let's go find the next guy. Salem was full of unfortunate people, and this is the next one. Stuck with a wooden crate and some bobby pins. I imagine the wooden crate was actually locked, and this person was trying their darnest with a whiskey bottle and a Boston Bugle to open it. Thankfully, they did for us, so we don't have to worry. It even had a pulse mine in it for me. So, good job, sir. I don't know your name, and I don't know what you're doing here, given the bit of debris. I have actually no idea where you could have surfaced from, but And continuing with a wee bit of a swim here, Kingsport Lighthouse, of course, being in the distance, we can find what appears to be yet another attempt at a settlement. I would say the mainland was so dangerous that a lot of people just assumed, hey, let's build out in those sort of shallow rock areas nearby. We can fish for lobsters and fish and, not have to worry about raiders trying to extort us for protection money. Well, at least that's the theory. Stew pot for getting some rainwater, clean umbrella, and a liquor bottle. The heck, they could even use this as a bit of a diving board. Now, if we drain away the water, we can see if there was anything going on underneath. No, just a shallow area where they'd established a bit of a base. Now, there is a bit of a tugboat nearby, so we're going to jump around the rocks here and take a wee bit of a swim over to it. Seems there's some electronics up there, so this was still in operational when it crashed, and nobody seems to have came and salvaged it. It's also a subway token, which, as you know, some Protectrons will be nice towards you if you have one on you. I always carry one, bit like a good omen. You can't be bad to some subway tokens. I'm actually just going to fly up here and see, is there anything in the rocks? Nope, just all these cool archways that they use all over the map. Ooh, fridge. Fridge and bloodleaf. Bloodleaf and squirrel meat. Is it squirrel meat? They make like a sort of stew. 1 second. Yes, indeed. Bloodleaf, squirrel bits, carrots, tato, and dirty water make squirrel stew, which give you a wee XP boost as well as, some heal. So definitely recommend you pick up Bloodleaf. Thank you to that subscriber that gave that suggestion a wee while back. Awesome knowing things like that. Okay, let's go into the town of Salem to meet some raiders. Often when you reach this area, you will find a raider. My one had a bit of a fight with an albino rad scorpion, and unfortunately, they lost. Both of them lost. The only winner's the mongrel. At least it can sort of get some lunch off both the rad scorpion and its previous owner. There's a wee cooking station, as well as a wooden crate and a duffel bag that I often miss, and sometimes has a pretty good, decent amount of grenades for you. It turns out it's actually 2 raiders, and there is a comfy bed, so when you combine all that, it's not too bad a location. Before moving on, of course, if you are here, you're probably going to the Museum of Witchcraft, which I do want to point out to anyone, if you haven't been in, it is terrifying. It's the death claw inside, not great. The butchered body of Private Heart, not a good sign. And the basement can be accessed from here. Don't go in unless you have a fair bit of health, firepower, and just, some serious courage, because it can be pretty nasty when you get inside. And the fog has rolled in, so we'll be heading on to our next location. And after having a bowl of cereal, I can get right back to it. So we're at the Kingsport bathrooms, male and female. You can explore both sides and probably find the odd piece of equipment. It can be a bit of a random encounter in which someone may set up camp here, but you can get some first aid. And wow, it seems that for once the females' toilets is in complete shambles as opposed to the males'. The pack of cigarettes can be found in the cigarette machine. And around the side, sometimes you might get lucky with something sitting in the dumpster. I may have actually picked this clean in this run. Anyways, we'll be moving on to the creepy side of things. This shelter. Now, why do I call it a creepy site? Well, this is why. It's synth. And after one knock to the head, we can realise it's not actually a synth. I thought it was for a long time. We can get some lunch though, and who put that there? I think it was more of a sick joke. What happens if I close it on them? I thought it was going to shoot it up to the moon, and no, sadly this is just a standard baseball and not the baseball bat from Jamaica Plain. I should equip that. It would be cool to run around and hit people and maybe send them into the air, but like the Giants did in Skyrim, get a bit of payback. So we are, I suppose I should mention, just beside Kingsport Lighthouse and Longneck Luke's Cannery. Now what I want to point out is just beside the cannery are these offices. Now they're completely nuked. They are bulldozed. There isn't much going on. I like to imagine that there was maybe an engagement between remnants just after the bombs fell, the military, everything breaking down, and the general population. Although these offices seem quite intact. This particular one almost looks like it's being used. Someone's got their coffee cup, you know, the hot plates. You've got some jam. It seems that maybe a raider was using this, or maybe Long Neck Luke actually comes out of the cannery and works over here during hot days. I mean, I suppose the weather would be pretty nice to do that sort of thing. As for the rest of it, this is Long Neck Suburbs, and when you're going through, you will get some nasty surprises that will pop out from time to time. It seems that it was a lovely neighbourhood, and you don't really get to visit it nor explore it near as much as you probably should have been able to. Would have been cool to have seen it. Oh, hello there, Razorclaw. Yeah, there's Marlurks crawling all over this place. Is this door... Can you open this door? No, sadly not. Yeah, I'd say this place was populated just by, you know, local hard-working families and residents who probably were as shocked as anyone to see the bombs fall, although plenty of their buildings got completely smashed to pieces, whether they were not up to building code. Hello, Mr. Marlark, coming out to say hello. Whether a lot of these buildings weren't built up to code is a possibility, or it was just one of those neighbourhoods that just got hit slightly harder than the rest. Another hot plate. What do hot plates break down into? That's the thing that's on my mind. Hot plate. Oh, junk. They break in probably steel, circuitry, copper and screw. I still have a few more episodes to finish on that. Siegebreaker. So yes, this is the sentry bot leading on to the military barge. And again, the fog has fairly rolled in quite fast. Whoa. Marlark Hunter, yeah. So it's not the end of it. Every building here seems to have a Marlark pop out of it. So when you are doing the suburbs, do take careful note of all of these encounters, because it can be quite dangerous when you are here. So from this point, we'll be heading on across the bridge over to Gibson Pier. See us over there. After you cross the bridge over to Gibson Point Pier, you can normally raid around the sheds. The Drumlin Diner, though, I always include as an unmarked location, despite it being part of the pier, because there's plenty of things that you can find in here, including, of course, a baseball bat, as well as a locked safe, some first aid, and plenty of, a trap in here. Set off the tripwire, and a combat shotgun will make short work of you, so you'll want to be extra careful. It seems this diner must have been closed, and whoever owned it was just opening up for the day. It also had another door up here. Maybe it was some sort of counter, perhaps it was a form of drive-through. No, the seats here, I think it just would have been one of them, you know, that would have just went up, and they could have easily entered and exited from that route. So again, a cool wee point. Now, this entire lake hides a few things that we want to have a look at. Oh, Marlark, you've just joined the fray here. Good to see you. Anyway, let's keep on moseying on. Revere Beach has a little hideout underneath its pier here. If we go inside, it's a wee railroad drop, some ammo, a Brahmin skull. It's a pretty neat place, apart from the fact you can't sleep, so for survival it isn't perfect. But do you know something? Whoever decided to put that there, it's pretty neat. I wouldn't really regard it as part of Revere Beach Station, because, you know, it's its own little entity. Now, if we keep walking across, wow, that Marlark Queen has emerged. Normally, I find this queen is engaged with the raiders of Revere Beach, in which case, you know, that just softens up the location for you, as queens are just very formidable creatures. Once you go over to her nest, though, you can find that it was a bit of a fortification before she took over, and had a bit going on for it. I would imagine that raiders and settlers might have used this pier as easy access to get some fishing done. And yeah, it's pretty much... It is pretty empty, as I said, one of the cleaner areas of Boston, although I would imagine most of the debris is kind of built up with Libertalia all the way over there. So, once you have a wee look at the Queen, we can carry on over the edge here. This fridge is a random encounter, but I find that it is almost always present right here. So, yeah, pretty awesome. 99 caps in this one. It's not even locked. That's pretty good. And then, I always like the board buses. Nah, this one's a dud. Sometimes you get really lucky with the buses in these runs. So, let's see. A bit of a playground at the tree. I love the world building with things like this. Just gives you that wee sense of the world used to be different. And now it's just a radioactive wasteland. Then we've got some mongrels that appear to be fighting a mirelurk who is currently guarding this boat. Normally the mirelurk is hidden, so when you do approach this area, it will pop out to say hello. It seems it already got a victim. Right, so next up, we're going a little closer into the city. Let's go. This red rocket charger is probably the most normal thing you're going to see for the next couple of locations. For when we cross over the debris of the fallen freeway, there's usually a pretty nasty robot patrolling the area. In this case, it happens to be a sentry bot. It's not gunner or raider, it's just a standard sentry bot whose mission seems to be just to guard this little area of no importance, which seems odd. Maybe his APC is buried under the rubble. Could be a possibility. Speaking of buried, this teddy bear is currently about to be rescued in the ruins of this building, which possibly connects to the warehouse later on. So after you drop down here, someone was having their morning tea and mentats before before it all kicked off. We can arrive round to this little warehouse where someone was doing a bit of boat maintenance, fixing things up here. This is actually the Chelsea River. In real life, it's called the Chelsea Creek, and it drains out into the Mystique River, which I'm not sure if the Mystique River is a real river in Boston, but the Chelsea Creek is an actual thing. So, bit of a neat note. You can see the old... that was from the second Unmarked Location series, where you got some of the old nuclear vats, or cooling towers. Yeah, that's it. So it seems whoever was in here was doing a wee bit of maintenance, and you can find plenty of supplies. Now, the route I'm going to show you here will net you an awful lot of materials, so do keep that in mind. And it seems someone was sitting playing the wee tricycle, and maybe their father or uncle or whatever was in the warehouse doing a bit of work when the bombs fell. Rough place to be when it went. It seems there's no skeletons in here, so perhaps they got out, and that might have been their house that we were in, where the sentry bot was patrolling nearby. On to the next warehouse. This seems to be a bit more of a truck maintenance place, someone that maybe worked on trucks. So I'm quite familiar with that. My father's a big truck mechanic, so it makes a lot of sense. Well, he used to work in trucks, that's what he used to do. But yes, this place is full to the brim with materials and crafting gear. So if you need anything like that, then this is certainly where you want to be, just near the East Boston Preparatory School. Alright, next up we've got an actual drive-in drumlin diner. This one, again, quite unique, was in use at the time. Someone was getting their early morning cup of joe, and then boom, bombs fell, nuclear war breaks out, and nobody is getting their morning paper anyway. So, yeah, get plenty of supplies in here. Lots of Abraxo cleaner. And if you raid these couple of sheds, not many enemies, but an awful lot of materials can be picked up, which obviously is an extreme net positive for you. Nothing on the wee express there. You can see a few ships sunk in the harbour. Would have been a nice wee view. Oh, good view of the Boston skyline from here. It says it was prime real estate for any drumlin diner. So let's head a little deeper into the flooded part of this city. Right beside the East Boston Police Station, you can find yet another warehouse for the taking. This one comes complete with a really nice trunk full of weapons. And then if we go upstairs, we can get even more equipment in the form of a duffel bag, ammunition. Someone had a really good camp setup going here. Sadly, you can't sleep in the mattress. It's the only downside to this area. But other than that, it makes a good base of operations when you are nearby. Could it have been a scavenger? Possibly. Could it have been just a settler or a really good survivalist? It's up for debate in that one. But the water's quite radioactive, so you don't want to stay around in this area for too long. Otherwise, you might start growing an extra limb. And yeah, from here we can actually see the crashed vertibird on the barge over towards the North Church. Now, we will be visiting that area later on, but you can get a suit of power armor inside a cage if that is something you're looking for. Right, let's see what is round the corner. Ah yes, a wee cargo container yard, but this one's a little more unique because you can do a wee bit of parkouring, a bit of climbing onto the roof, and if you've got a keen enough eye, just at the back of the Robco Sales and Service Centre, you can do a bit of a long jump across and boom, we've reached a camp. Not just any camp, an extremely well-stocked camp. I actually think I called this Ryan's Camp. May have been the name I chose for it. Bobby pin box and a cooking station. Whoever was up here again, you know, considering all the parkour that you would need to have done to have got here, very safe and secure, which makes it all the stranger that there's no one here. Very odd that. But again, lovely view of the skyline, just right behind the Robco Sales and Service Centre. Moving on more so towards the Boston Airport, where we can see, explore a bit of the water around it. So let's carry on, shall we? Just before you get to the Boston Airport, you'll pass through this flooded square, where you can find not only a lot of commercial businesses that, of course, you have no access into, but you find this boat shed with plenty of boats in it. Perhaps it was for recreation. I think it may have belonged to the East Boston Preparatory School, and perhaps this was their boatyard in which they launched a lot of their maybe water sports from. And if we wade our way through the water, of course, when you do get the DLC for the automatons, you can, of course, find the Mechanist lair inside the Robco Sales and Service Centre, located right here. Now, here is another neat thing. I say neat, kind of forgotten. This is the flooded tunnel. Now, this tunnel was meant to go to somewhere within the city. Fun fact, this tunnel has no exit. There's no other side to it, so therefore it was somewhat forgotten about. I think they were to make some room for it in the downtown area, but you can scar across and you won't find this tunnel having an exit at the other side. And we do know that there is a similar route that goes underneath Boston in real life, and unfortunately this one was just not shown. You can see this is the Boston Transit Tunnel. And yeah, sadly blocked up, flooded, and no other side. So the continuation of it is sadly just not there. But we do find a little local friendly garage inside the town here. Nestled away from all the hustle and bustle, someone was repairing their little Zip. But more importantly for us, there's an industrial trunk that you can pick from, as well as plenty of tools. This place comes stocked with an awful lot of materials for the taking, and if you want to find it in the map, it's right here just north of Robco Sales and Service Centre. Right, let's head on over to Easy Downs, where we're going to find the scene of what I believe was a nasty divorce. Perhaps this fellow had lost all their money at the betting in Easy Downs. Let's have a wee look at them. The skeleton is more humorous than anything. You can see him lying here with possibly having got hit by the TV set, or he was just propping himself up against it when the bombs fell. His suitcase full of stuff, a rubbish bin, and he maybe was holding this wee round vase. She appears to have thrown all the stuff down. Whether she threw the TV set, I'd imagine these things would be extremely heavy, but fair play to her if she managed to just chuck it down here at this poor fellow. So maybe he gambled away everything, maybe they were already fighting, but the storytelling aspect is just brilliant. Now here's a little creepy thing that you can find just at the edge here. Now, I know you've maybe seen coffins from time to time pop up, but let me drain away the water. Do you notice something? What are the coffins doing over here? Like, there's just two coffins. Again, is it gambler's debt? Did someone just want to put like a wee eerie thing? Now, you never see them unless you drain away the water. So again, maybe if you're going in for a bit of a scuba dive, you do wonder, why were they placed there? What was going on? Now, when we start crossing the bridge towards North Hagen Beach, we get some pretty interesting locations. Firstly, we have the Lost Patrol. This main battle tank was on its way to Fort Strong, presumably on a patrol, and it got beached, literally, in the sand here. And you can find a soldier next to... Whoa! I didn't defuse it in time. Next to a combat rifle. This always tends to be automatic, and the higher level you are, the better it is. In my case, it's a marksman armor-piercing automatic rifle, which again, awesome job, sir. A wee lifeguard station with some first aid. The lifeguard obviously sitting there, probably amazed that the tank got itself stuck, and this girl is equally amazed as to how it's alive. Shall I put you out of your misery? Just one hit'll do. The people demand a bit of blood here and there. Now we have a patriotic settlement, someone who was really living the high life in the post-war era. They've got their old American flag, a mattress and a few flamingos on their beachfront property. You can see the way it's cobbled together. It must have been post-war, so whoever owns it is nowhere to be seen. Perhaps they are off at Easy Downs gambling, or that's just one of the raiders. I'd imagine that they would have set up shop here if that was something they wanted to get up to. It seems someone was also having a little morning beer over here. Just sitting, cracking open a few cold ones, looking off into the distance. At least the nuclear explosion would have been behind them at this point, so it probably wouldn't have disrupted the view all that much. Right, we're going to find an experimental aircraft that went down, kind of similar to the one from Salem. Covered in moss and debris, this poor experimental aircraft came down and nobody was coming to save it. Given the fact it's so close to Fort Strong, you would have thought a heavier military response, but imagine in the chaos of it all, and the fact that it kind of half buried itself in the sand. I mean, I'm being modest. There's no way this thing was just hidden out of sight. The military just obviously couldn't respond to it in time. The EMP of the nuclear blast would have took down all aircraft, so that's why you see the likes of many vertibirds, like the one smashed into Mass Bay Medical, or just anywhere you find a crashed vertibird. That would be the reason. This little checkpoint though hides one thing that you rarely see. Completely unguarded power armor. Now, it usually isn't too high. It's T45 in my run here, and I'm quite a high level when I discovered it. There's no gate. There's no door to unlock. This power armor is completely left alone, and obviously you don't really venture into Fort Strong until you're doing like the Brotherhood quest line. But it's curious, there is no one here, which begs the question, why? We may never know, but free power armor is free power armor. By the way, if anyone wanted to know where that tank was, it's over here. The divorce guy was over here. We kind of just did a wee circle of this area. So, yeah. To conclude Salem and Fort Strong, we are currently stuck on top of a tugboat in the middle of the ocean, where a few boats have made some sort of makeshift camp. Now, you might be wondering, what on earth is this particular tugboat? What exactly is it doing? Well, you see, it's anchored to the seabed. And to give you a bit of an idea as to how the seabed looks, as a rad storm conveniently rolls in, I can drain away the water here. And you can see it goes all the way down to a barge. Now, it's hard to explain just how vast this area is, especially with the rad storm kicking in. If I can just change the time, I can maybe make the rad storm even worse. Nope, I can make it extremely foggy. Wow, we're not... There we go. So yes, the sea floor is vast. The amount of things you can find all the way from here down is pretty crazy, and a lot of it's cut content. We have pipelines that go to nowhere. We have plenty of sunken boats. Heck, we have Easter eggs at the bottom of the ocean. Now, this is, it's a bit of a preview to the next thing we're going, which is I'm going to be draining the water away, and we are going to be walking along the seabed and finding every secret from here down to Spectacle Island. So, plenty of fun things coming in the next episode, as well as we'll be exploring a lot of the rooftops in the city of Boston, and especially around Diamond City. So if those are things you're interested in, be sure to subscribe and see what comes next. But yes, this boat currently has one single cable keeping it here, and I would say if that cable was gone, it would quickly disappear. Now, inside there is a toolbox that tends to have a pretty good item. And if you didn't know that, let me know, because I keep forgetting about this toolbox, and I've been here quite a few times. So yeah, pretty awesome place. And we found an awful lot of really cool things from Salem. Let me know in the comments any of your favourite places. Was it the Salem Butcher? Was it like the beach tank with the automatic rifle? That's one of my favourites. Storytelling wise, the Nasty Divorce and all is really cool. And plenty of the other things. The Gunner Radar Station should have been. I wish things would have been fleshed out a little more, but amazing storytelling across the board. And that covers this entire area pretty much of Unmarked Locations. Next up, as I said, we're focusing on the sea, and then we'll probably move in closer to the city. If you want to follow me on my main series, consider becoming a channel member and getting early access. See you all in the next one. Thank you.